Hi everyone, it's good to reconnect after a couple of months away. As you know or may have heard, I got very sick, but I am fully recovered, which is great. And so it's good to be back, and I look forward to the upcoming workshop as a continuation of SLS. So I hope you've all been out there experimenting and practicing the application of leadership to very real-world settings. So let me just talk a little bit about this, and also to give you some ideas or to prompt your thinking for the upcoming workshop as well. Firstly, to state the obvious, we are living in very demanding, difficult, turbulent times. This pandemic has really challenged us all to the limits of our thinking and our psychological well-being. I think we're all getting a little bit tired. So it's thrown up a whole array of leadership challenges. We have the maintenance leadership challenge of holding things together. We've got a creative challenge on how we do things differently. We have the crisis challenge on how we manage the complexity and the demands of conflict and the inevitable tensions that emerge at a time like this. And we've got the transition challenge of kind of orchestrating a sustained period of change over a prolonged learning process. That all of that requires leadership, and it's a challenge to your leadership within the team, within the organization, and within the community. This is a tremendous opportunity to enhance your leadership capability rather than just sit back being like a cork being tossed around on the open sea as if you've got no control. Sometimes it feels like we have very little control, but there are so many opportunities, abundant opportunities for the expression of your leadership, even in small ways, with your own family, your children, extended family members, and of course in the context of the workplace and the community. Now, I think a very critical skill to enhance that leadership capability is what we've talked about on SLS, and that is becoming a reflective practitioner of leadership. What does that mean, to be a reflective practitioner? It means to employ critical thinking to your leadership work as you think about yourself, how you are responding to all these demands, thinking about your leadership interventions. What are you doing? What's the feedback from those interventions? So there's this self-learning element to reflection that's absolutely critical. And then there is also the reflective aspects of learning about the system in which we are all a part of. These complex systems with so many interacting parts. So you have to be able to look at the system when we tweak something over here, what happens over there? What am I learning about a system's capacity to actually produce meaningful results or to orchestrate productive or innovative work? And the system for you could be your organization, the institution you're a part of, but it's also, since so many of you are in the social sector, the network of institutions and organizations and groups that come to bear on the particular social challenge that you are confronting. So this opportunity is pregnant with material that is very important for us to embrace, to look at. The trials, the tribulations, and also the joy and the satisfaction that comes from attending to these demanding and difficult adaptive challenges. So, learning about the self, learning about the system, learning about the problem, learning about the group dynamics, that requires a higher order reflective capability that I encourage you to develop the muscles in that realm. Now, let me briefly talk about the projects that you are working on. And I hope that your groups are meeting and interacting, and at least in the virtual space, that you're coming together and you're talking about these challenges. You know, the whole purpose of these breakthrough projects is to apply the framework of leadership that you've been learning on the program. but it's also about looking at what leadership would look like to generate an absolutely outstanding, meaningful breakthrough result in the context of Singapore. If we applied the leadership model, the framework, if you exercise some degree of leadership. So you are looking at a particular challenge that has a degree of complexity, meaning there's multiple groups involved, there's a lot of things we don't know about it, and therefore there's a significant amount of adaptive work that needs to be done. And remember, this term adaptive work means that there's some modification that needs to happen in the way people think, interact, come together for problem solving. That's the work of leadership, to orchestrate that learning discovery process. So if you're out for a breakthrough, built into this notion of breakthrough, there are many unknowns, there are many questions. Yes, there's this great possibility, but we don't have sufficient expertise to bring resolution to what is unresolved. We've got to experiment, we've got to create. We have to be willing to fail from time to time. So orchestrating the creativity, stimulating the innovation, and learning from the breakdowns and the failures that are inevitable along this journey, that's leadership work. So your leadership work is critical in all aspects of generating a breakthrough. And you have to work your way through conflict, work your way through breakdowns, work your way through these impediments where you feel so stuck, where you don't have sufficient resources, where you feel like you're in over your head. This becomes exciting for the practice of leadership, rather than just leave it there like, oh, what can I do? I can't do anything. It's an opportunity to step back, bring your partners and allies together and think through what would leadership look like in this context. You can never exercise sufficient leadership alone in order to produce a breakthrough, so it's going to have to be done with others. That's very important, and we know how widely distributed power is these days. None of us are powerful enough to produce anything of importance on our own. You've got to work with a diverse array of actors and build the network of relationships, generate the understanding, orchestrate the learning, and manage yourself in that space as well, your own well-being, which is absolutely essential in this pandemic, because we can all feel a little bit stressed, bruised, worn out, given all that we're going through. So we want to hear about your breakthroughs. What would be the breakthrough that you think would be very important in that particular problem set that you are looking at and exploring? What are the impediments to generating that breakthrough, like lack of resources, not enough people understand or appreciate the problem, different groups don't want to work with different groups, things like that. So what are the impediments? Then it leads to the question, well, what would leadership look like to address those impediments, or to transcend the impediments in order to produce the breakthrough? And the final and very important question is, where is that leadership going to come from? We don't want to put all the responsibility on government to be the sole provider of that leadership. This is about enhancing leadership capacity in the social sector. So how are you, or how is your institution or organization going to provide leadership to kickstart this process that ultimately can contribute to a breakthrough? Now, no doubt there's already a lot of leadership being exercised in the sector, and probably by yourself as well. So whatever people are doing, whatever institutions are doing, whatever government is doing, gets us to a certain level. But the breakthrough is going beyond, to have an even greater transformative impact, shall we say. What would leadership look like coming from yourself or the institution that you are a part of? So these are very important questions that we want to be able to address. And as a final note, and something to think about in preparation for the next session, is coming back to this notion of being a reflective practitioner. I'll be giving you some time to come together to think about, what are you learning about the self, the system, the set of problems that you're facing? What are you learning about leadership by virtue of being in this pandemic? this is really important to bring you into that reflective space. And already start thinking about it. It's like it's not an easy question to answer because there are kind of so many things that we might be learning, but we're not taking the time to actually sit down and reflect and extract those lessons. And the insights I'm talking about, not necessarily the technical learning, so how to set up a Zoom call or how to have digital learning or whatever it might be. I'm talking about the deeper adaptive aspects that are connected to mindsets and values and relationships, our priorities in how we live our life and how we go about our work, on those things that we consider to be important or not so important. I want us to have a richer and deeper conversation about that in the next SLS, because there's something special, for want of a better word, about being in a time like this, as difficult and demanding and as problematic as it is. It's unique in that we are all experiencing this together. We are living it. We are the case study. This is not an external case study we're studying. We are it. We're in it. So our values are being touched and shaped and being moved. And this is an important time for us to rethink our priorities and the work we're doing and what does it mean to make a difference and our role in making a difference in the world and providing real leadership to address these challenges. So, exciting times. We're back to the program. We're back in it. I look forward to seeing you in just a few weeks and bring your energy and your mind and your passion to the work. And let's continue on our learning journey. Thank you very much.